And finally this week, we'd like to pay our very own tribute to a legend of the game who died this week at the age of 84. The former Hibernian and Scotland striker Lawrie Reilly was a player of exceptional ability.
Scotland are gaining the upper hand when suddenly it happens. Aitken throws in. Steele sends the ball forward to Reilly. The Hibernian man centres and Mason flicks it in.
The Edinburgh-born centre-forward helped Hibernian win 3 league titles in the late 1940s and early 50s. During his time at the club, and he spent his entire career there, he scored an incredible 185 goals in 253 games. Globally, his most famous contemporary was Alfredo Di Stefano, and certainly Reilly's goals per game ratio, it's almost exactly the same as the great Argentines. He had an equally impressive ratio for the Scottish national team. For them, he still holds the record for most goals scored against the old enemy, England.
A beautiful centre, and Reilly heads goal number 3. Scotland's triumph is complete.
The current Scotland manager, Gordon Strachan, grew up as a Hibs supporter. He's been leading the tributes to Lawrie Reilly.
I used to see him regularly. It was a big hero of my father's. It's not great news, but he's left us with some fantastic memories. And as you say, he scored 5 times. He's one of these guys, I've met him so many times, but never mentioned that. And I think it's a measure of what a gentleman he was. I think great players don't tell you what they do. Other people know how great they are. He was a great player, that's for sure.
Yes, the 5 times that Gordon Strachan mentions there are the 5 goals Lawrie Reilly scored against England. And last year we spoke to the man himself on World Football. It was shortly before the Scottish Cup, and he told us that despite his successful career, there was one dream that never came true for him.
I'd been a Hibs supporter since I was a wee boy, and now to play in a Hibs team that won the championship was icing on the cake. But we would love to have won the cup. I mean, it's a bigger honour, truthfully, to win the league championship, but the Scottish Cup has got the glamour, and we just never ever did it. I'll go to my grave regretting that, I can assure you.
Lawrie Reilly speaking to us in May last year. Simon Peer is a Scottish football writer and historian. He's been telling me why Reilly deserves to be remembered as one of the all-time greats.
He's got a very special place in my football heart because of his status as a Hibs player and being in the famous 5. But Scottish fans revere him especially because of his record against England. He scored 5 times for Scotland at Wembley. Now, no other Scot, let alone, I don't think there's any other international footballer who's scored 5 times at Wembley, let alone for England players. And a lot of good England players never really reached that total. And that was only on 6 occasions. And that was when the Scotland-England game in the 50s and the post-war era was the pinnacle of the international football calendar. That was the big game. And Lawrie stepped up to the plate, and there was a particularly memorable one was when he snatched the last-minute equaliser 2-2 in 1953. He scored both goals that day, and that earned him the moniker Last-Minute Reilly.
He was also from a time when players had a real and true connection with their fans, with the city in which they lived and played. They were almost part of the identity of that entire city. The most famous example I can think of, the one of Bobby Charlton travelling by bus to go to Old Trafford to play games for Manchester United, and people saying, hey, good luck, Bobby. You know, it's as if they knew him, and in fact they did know him. Were there stories like that around the town being told about Lawrie? Yes,
Lawrie learnt of his first cap for Scotland when he was waiting on the bus in Bryson Road in Edinburgh, if you know that, probably not. But somebody at the bus stop came up to him and said, well done, Lawrie, you've been capped. And it was in the papers, stop press, Lawrie for Scotland. And I think it was only 19 or 20 coming on. So by the time he got to the ground, and in those days the queues used to stretch way up Easter Road, you know, the massive queues and fewer turnstiles, and the crowd just started gathering round and clapping him on the back, and they ended up putting him on his shoulders and carrying him into Easter Road. But he had actually got on the bus to go to the game.
Incredible. Can you imagine Ronaldo doing that nowadays? Yeah, he'd probably arrive in one of his Ferraris. Where does Lawrie rank in the pantheon of the Scottish greats? Because there have been some incredible players. Kenny Dalglish, probably the most famous, but you can think of others.
Yes, well, Law and Dalglish, Dennis Law and Kenny Dalglish, great players. Now, the unfortunate thing is because of Laurie's era and the lack of film footage, but if you look at Laurie's scoring record, he's got a better scoring rate, 22 goals in 38 games, compared to Dennis and Kenny. I would actually be as bold to say he was a better out-and-out striker than Kenny Dalglish. Dennis Law, I wouldn't be so bold as to say that he was better than Dennis Law, European Footballer of the Year, the only Scot to win that accolade. But I think Lawrie was definitely up on a par there. I think today he'd definitely be a 20, 30 million pound footballer. And as you yourself mentioned, the stats comparing him to Alfredo Di Stefano, and a lot of these games he did play against high-class opposition on the continent. So I think he really does deserve to be recognised as definitely one of the top 3 Scottish strikers of all time.
The Scottish football writer and historian Simon Peer remembering the career and life of Lawrie Reilly. That's it from us for this week, and in memory of Lawrie Reilly, we'll leave you with a song which Hibs fans have adopted as their anthem. It's Sunshine on Leith by the Proclaimers. Remember, if you want to download World Football, you only have to go to our website. It's at bbcworldservice.com/worldfootball, or you can follow us on Twitter at WSWorldFootball. But do join us again at the same time next week. Until then, always remember, World Service, World Football.